אני מקשר עצמי לכל הצדיקים האמיתים שרדנו לכל הצדיקים האמיתים שוכנע עפר הקדוש המשל בארץ הם מלכה לרבנו הקדוש צדיק יסודרם נח נווה מקור חוכמה רבנו נחמן פגם את שמחה נח אנחנו מאומן זכותו תגן עלינו ועל כל ישראל אמן. Okay, so we left off at the subject. We talked about Hevel Yofi last time, Sheker Achen, and how that affects Ira and Arikot Yamim as a whole.
Yeah.
As we talked about last time. Then we talked about this idea how wealth is drawn from the extended breath, extended neshima.
Yeah.
And how Yofi, beauty, is half of that. It's hefsek neshima, it's a pause breath, it's not complete neshima. Rabbeinu is going to get into the subject of neshima, the lungs, later, and talk about all that sort of stuff when it comes to wealth. Very soon, actually, today, God willing. But
and what was the thing about the seed?
The drop.
Was that this, or was that something that was an outside source?
No, this is it. So exactly, at the time when the drop comes out, there needs to be a half pause breath, essentially hefsek and neshima. Why? For two reasons. The first reason, so that the drop does not get cold. The drop doesn't get cold, God forbid, and if the drop gets cold, then it does not have the koach to be able to reproduce, you know?
Yeah.
That's the first thing. אז צריך להיות הפסק הנשימה משני טעמים. אבל כדי שלא יתקרב טיפה על ידי הנשימה, שהוא האוויר הקר שמקבל בכל רגע מבחוץ, כי צריכה לצאת בחמימות, כדי שתהיה ראוי להולדה. No, you're good, אחי. Totally fine, bro. That's one. Second thing, I'll read through it. You're good, bro. Shai wants to learn, אחי.
I think that's what it is. Okay.
והשני, כי מחמת שעושה כוח הדוחה להוציא ולדחות הטיפה, על כן הוא בהכרח הפסק הנשימה, כי הנשימה הוא מוציא הרוח ומכניס רוח. ומחמת שעושה כוח הדוחה לדחות הטיפה, אי אפשר להוציא הרוח, ועל כן הוא הפסק הנשימה. So he's talking, Rabbeinu is talking about two types of הפסק הנשימה. Pause breath. Whenever a person, when a person is with his wife, at the time the drop comes out, there's hefsek and neshima for two reasons. First reason is because if there's breath, the breath is essentially cold. Comes from it's hitkaut. Essentially, it's coolness, and the coolness will cool down the drop of seed. The drop of seed needs to be essentially hot though to be able to affect its job. Second reason is that at the time when you're essentially your force of pushing out essentially is pushing out the drop, you also can't push out cold. You can't exhale at the same time because you only have koach for one of them. So your breath is essentially paused. It's like you're holding it. You're holding in your breath at the time when the drop is coming out. Which is why the second reason Rabbeinu was saying that the koach hadoche, the koach to push out, is pushing out the drop. Therefore, you cannot push out your breath also at the same time. So hefsek and neshima, pause breath. So that's why it's half, and that's what Rabbeinu was saying. V'zeh haruach ve'havel. And that ruach, that hevel, in which a person breathes, that vapor, that air which a person takes in, that inhales, that enters his body before the drop comes out and remains in it, meaning the last breath you take before the drop is taken out of the body, that last breath that you took in, that you inhaled, is enclosed within the strength of pushing out and therefore inside the drop. So essentially, your ruach that you took in last time is essentially pushed out through the drop.
So it's in the drop, or
essentially it's pushed out with it.
With it, okay.
Therefore,
got it.
Or through the strength. Thanks to it, it's able to push out even further, or whatever. It's able to go out. Why? Because that drop has air, pushes it out essentially through the koach hadoche. Okay, that's what we talked about. Now Rabbeinu is going to get into the practicality of what we're talking about here, because it seems a little bit like esoteric what's going on. So we can
also, it's like, how does it even relate to what is like
exactly
what's everything?
Exactly. Yes, uchvi.
Uchvi zachur v'zachur ha'hevel kein havalad meluban hamzoraz ki im hahevel zach v'naki azai hatipa sheyotze שמלובש שם הבל, הזה היא גם כן צחה נקייה, ואזי הוולד גם כן מלובן ומזורז.
Okay, so according to the purity and the clarity of that air that you just took in, essentially how clean the air is you took in. We're not talking about a physical cleanliness of how clean the air is outside, like China versus the US versus, no, we're not talking about that. We're talking about the koach of your body being able to create a kli for clean air, meaning how clean is your ruach? How clean is the ruach you're taking in? The lungs, which are responsible for taking the ruach and all this stuff. I'm going to talk about more about it. According to the purity of that hevel, that air, the valad, the fetus, which is formed through, which is formed meluban, which is white, umzoraz, and strong. Therefore, the fetus's strength, essentially the baby's strength, the baby's cleanliness, kedusha, is determined by the breath you took in. Because the breath, Rabban was explaining, is enclosed within the drop of seed. Because that's the last thing that you took in, and therefore it goes out with the drop. Essentially, it's inside the drop.
Crazy.
Which means what? According to the kedusha of the breath that you just took in right before you gave out that drop, that will determine how clean the neshama essentially is that you're drawing down, or the valad. Maybe we're talking about the physicality of the baby, the strength of the baby, the how purified he is from any sort of stain or spiritual stain or this or that we're talking about here. Because if the air that you just took in is clean, it is pure, as I said, then the drop that comes out, which this hevel, which is air that this inhaled air that you just took in, is enclosed in that drop. The drop will too be cleaned because the air is influencing the drop.
Yeah.
And therefore the valad is meluban. How did I translate meluban? It's from the idea of lavan, it's white. Meluban,
you said, is fair and healthy.
Yeah, fair and healthy. So that will determine the health of the baby.
Yeah.
And if, God forbid, there's turbidity or impurity within the air, then the drop will also become turbid also, impure.
But you're talking about the purity is about using your body, your inside, not like the energy around that you're taking in?
You're talking...
when I'm thinking of that air, then you're saying... Like what's making it clean? Like your body or just like the energy?
It seems to me that the kedusha of who you are as an individual.
Okay.
I don't think yes, energy will affect that sort of thing, but you yourself as an individual have the ability to transform all the air around you into kedusha purposes and to actually help you serve Hashem. There's many tzaddikim who, when we talk about Rabbeinu HaKadosh and the breath that he takes, Rabbeinu said, there's not a breath that I take without being chidush, meaning that there's a kavanah within the breath that you take. Is the breath a gift from Hashem, or is the breath something that you think that you own?
Yeah.
Meaning there's ways to take in a breath, and every single breath that you take in throughout life, in a proper kavanah, Hashem Shamayim, not Hashem Shamayim. Meaning, how do you breathe every single day? How do you act every single day? All these sort of things. So there's actually in Avodat Hashem here, Rabbeinu was explaining, and it will obviously depend on the kedusha of the body also, which will be the kli for the air, how that air is being taken in, how kadosh that air is, and that air will affect the baby. So the last whiff of air that you essentially inhale before that drop is brought out of your body will determine how the fetus is essentially formed, how pure, how healthy the baby is. So let's see how this is. See how Rabbeinu goes into this. And therefore, if the drop is if the drop is pure, thanks to the air that you just took in, then the valad, the fetus, will also be meluban, healthy, fair, good, strong. You know. ואם יש,
ואם יש אחריות בתוך ההבל, אזי נתעקר הטיפה גם כן. זה בחינת אדם להבל דמה, כי כפי ההבל כן התהוות הוולד. Weiter?
We can stop there. So, what he says here, if there's achirut chadasham, if there's turbidity within the air, the hevel that you just took in, that, how did that vapor, I think it what literally translates as, that air that you just took in If it's turbid, if it's not kadosh, then the drop won't be kadosh.
Okay.
It's all affected.
Yeah.
And this is what it says in the pasuk: Adam lahevel dama. What is it dama? What is the translation of dama? Formed.
Man is like a breath. Adam level dama. That's what you wrote.
Adam
man is like a breath.
Man is likened to a breath. Okay.
Man is like a breath. Yeah.
Okay. So what's the idea of or similar dama? So what's the idea? Man is like a breath, right? La hevel. Kikfiya heaven, because according to the heaven that you just took in from the neshima that you just took in right before you gave over that drop, Kenny Tavut Alvarad will determine the hitavut, the formation of that fetus, will determine the existence, how that fetus is. The hitavut, the existence of that fetus. Yeah. So essentially that hevel is mitlabesh in the koach hadoche. That hevel, that air they just took in, is mitlabesh, is enclosed, is garbed within the koach hadoche, the push-out force essentially. And then the tipa now is able to go outside and create the child. So that's what we're talking about here. It's all determined by the breath. And Rabbanu is going to go more into what this idea really means. Let's see what Rabbanu says. Let's see what it says over here, this idea. Rabbanu writes in Sefer Hamidot that one who guards himself also at the time and the moment in which he is with his wife in conjugal relations, so that he makes sure that the time is not too hot, not too cold, it's the perfect temperature. Through this, the children that will be born from this will be very big chachamim. And what did it say? And this is the same idea. According to the Itkarut that we talked about, the coldness that we mentioned above, the idea that it can be too cold, because if it's too cold, the drop cannot do its work, all this idea. Rabbeinu was saying that there's an entire chokhmah behind how a person's with his wife, essentially. And that will determine the formation of the child. Let's see if there's another inyan here. So yeah. Okay. Tov.
Right there.
Yeah, let's continue.
Hevel b'nei adam, ki hevel hu melabin mizrez havalad kana. V'zeh v'china. Hevel yofi ki yofi hu k'fi hevel kana.
Continue.
נמצא שההבל היופי הוא מהפסק הנשימה. ועל כן מי שחומד יופי הנשים נמצא שמקבל בחינת הפסק הנשימה. ועל כן הוא בהפך מהשירות שהוא בחינת אריכות הנשימה.
So it's crazy. Okay. So this is amazing. Hevel b'nei Adam. So too is the hevel of the sons of man. The heir of the sons of man. Okay. What is this idea? Like we talked about above, that according to the purity of the hevel that you just took in will determine the balad, right?
Yeah.
The child. And this is what it says hevel hayofi in the pasuk. Vain is beauty. Why? Because the beauty is according to the hevel that you just took in. Hayofi lefi hahevel. Meaning the yofi of the child, the beauty of the child, how strong he is, how healthy he is, determined by the breath that you just took in. Hevel hayofi. Now that's this one. That's why Rabbeinu is entering this entire subject of the breath that you take in before you have the child, before you conceive the child.
Yeah.
What's this entire inan here? Because the yofi is according to the hevel, determined by the hevel. Therefore, the hevel yofi, when we say vain is beauty, is created from hefsek hu naaseh hefsek aneshima. It's created from the hefsek aneshima, this paused breath, or this seized breath, this incomplete breath. Why? Because then the hevel is able to be enclosed in the koach hadoche. Because we said earlier, if it's complete breath, the koach hadoche doesn't have strength to push out the air separately and the drop. So what happens? The air is enclosed within the koach hadoche, within the expository force, essentially, and then that expository force is now able to push out the drop. No. We have second neshama. So then the drop is able to do whatever it needs to do. Is that where we stopped?
We stopped at הפסק הנשימה.
So exactly. ועל כן, go for it.
ועל כן מי שחומד יופי אנשים נשמע שמקבל בחינת הפסק הנשימה. ועל כן הוא בהפך מהשירות שהוא בחינת ריחוד הנשמה. כי כל מיני השירות היינו כל מיני דגן וכל האילנות והעשבים וכל מיני מתכות הם רק על ידי גשמים וכן כל האוצרות הם על ידי גשמים כמו שכתוב יפתח השם לך את אוצרו הטוב ותית מטר ארצך וכו'.
Okay. So what is he saying here? Therefore, one who chad v'shalom desires the beauty of a woman, yofi anashim, meaning chemda is something that it's coveting. It's in the machshava. Something that you're coveting, the beauty of a woman. What are you doing? What's happening by default? You are attaining hefsek anishima, pause breath. If that is something a person struggles with, you have the midah of hefsek anishima, meaning you will see you have short breath. When we say hefsek anishima, it means short breath.
Yeah. Okay.
Person who struggles with breath.
Okay.
Why? Because the chomedana. What's the idea of chomed yofi anashim, to desire, covet the beauty of women? What did we say earlier? Hever yofi. That the yofi, if you're attracted to the yofi, which is heva, which is the air, which needs to be at half breath to be able to create the child, as we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Because the beauty is determined by how the air is brought in, essentially.
Yeah.
And if you're desiring hever yofi, the vain beauty, that means you have by default taken the midah of hefsek anishima, because hever yofi already encompasses within it this idea of hefsek anishima.
But didn't we say that hefsek neshima is something, I don't know if the right word is good, but something that so it's like you're supposed to have that pause breath before you
It needs to.
So
but you're attaining that midah in general now. Meaning hefsek neshima is now your midah in general, just because you're being chomed yofi anashim. To be able to do the act with your wife, you need to have that pause breath, because it will never work with full breath.
Yes. Okay.
But in general, that shouldn't be at all.
That shouldn't be okay.
That shouldn't be a general thing across all times. Okay. That should only be in that moment.
On that moment, okay.
But because you're being chomed after yofi anashim, because yofi anashim is this idea of hevel yofi, you're desiring something which is vain, and that hevel, which creates the beauty, the yofi of the child, needs to be paused. Because it cannot be full breath, as we talked about earlier with the structure of how God looks like. Aside from the fact also that chemda, coveting something which is in the machshava, is also where the zivug starts, because the zera is on the mind of the man, and the zera which is enclosed within the which has the air enclosed within it, then able to essentially. So that's the entire structure here. Those are multiple ways and approaches on how to understand that one who's chomed after yofi anashim is essentially attaching himself to that bechina of zivug, which is hefsek anishima, and therefore by default you're attaining that.
That short breath. Yeah,
that short breath. That hefsek anishima, which Rabbeinu seems to be saying is not a good thing at a general level.
Yeah.
So what are you saying? Therefore, nimtza, you're receiving tamid constantly, this idea. You're always receiving this bechina of hefsek anishima, because the yofi beauty comes from hefsek anishima. The beauty of a child or any single living individual is formed by the pause of breath right before the child was conceived. Every single person's beauty. So you're being chomed after the beauty, but that beauty is formed by hefsek anishima.
So you're saying all creation was created by hefsek anishima?
Of course, because the man could not never ever conceive a child without having hefsek anishima. So now that makes more sense at a general level. You're being chomed after yofi, beauty, but beauty in a general sense comes from a half breath. Short breath.
Yes. Okay.
And therefore, if you see if you see that you have short breath, it's because you have a midah of yofi anashim. You are chomed after yofi anashim.
You have short breath.
So what's this idea of hefsek anashima? Therefore, this is the opposite of ashirut. Because when you say ashirut is, it's arichut anashima. It's extended breath. Why? It's arichut anishima, and now Rabbeinu is going to get into the reason.
And what was that pasuk that he said, like the yiftach?
Did you read that already?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. And what's the reason? Because all forms of wealth, whether it's grain, trees, asavim, grass, what are matachot? Metals
I
or
didn't write anything here.
no?
Geshamim, rainfall. Mitachot, metals.
Metals, right?
Yes.
So all forms of metals are hemrak alidei gshamim, are all through the gshamim, the rains. Why? Because the minerals to form metal are thanks to the rain. So, and also the rivers that are able to bring life to the crops, etc., 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 etc. Everything is formed through rain. And what's Rabbeinu saying? The same is true of all the otzarot, all the storehouses, or all the treasure houses of wealth. What does that mean? They're also through rain. They're also formed through rain, sustained through rain. As it says in the pasuk, Yiftach Hashem lecha et otzaro atov. Hashem shall open up for you His good storehouse, His good treasure house, latet metaratzecha, to give you the rain of the land. Meaning, what does the storehouse have connoted with it, symbolized with it? Metaratzecha, the rain of the land. Meaning what? The storehouse is sustenance, comes from metaratzecha, or the sustenance of the storehouse, or essentially what is the chef of the storehouse, is metaratzecha. So the storehouse has a lashon directly connected to matar, which is rain. So what's Rabbeinu saying? This idea. So what are we saying? That the otzarot, treasure houses, the good treasure houses of Hashem Yitbarach, which Rabbeinu is going to, I think, connect his idea to yira, and it's as brought down the pasuk, yirat Hashem hi otzaro. I don't know if he brings it down here. Sure, I'm sure it's connected. Yirat Hashem hi otzaro. Fear of Hashem is his store, is his treasure house. Otzar shel yirat shamayim. We say that fear of heaven is a treasure house, and therefore
is Hashem's treasure house?
Yeah, Hashem's treasure house is yira. So therefore, by default, fear is connoted with the otzar.
What did we say earlier about fear again? I know we spoke about fear earlier. What was it again?
That fear is the ability to attain arichut yamim.
Arichut yamim, okay.
Fear is the midah which a person is able to attain arichut yamim.
Okay, yeah.
So what's Rabbeinu saying here? That the fear, Rabbeinu is not giving the pasuk directly right now. I'm sure it's going to be connected, but this idea that fear is the otzar, and we said that ashirut is dependent on fear because ashirut is dependent on arichut yamim. Arichut yamim is dependent on fear. Therefore, the ashirut, which is the otzar, which is the rain, it's all this idea. Ashirut is the chef of the rain. It all depends on the yira, which is also the treasure house. Yirat Hashem yotzaro. There's all these elements playing together.
You know, I feel like you ever see like those like crime movies where it's like the detective and it's like all these like connections
the points,
get, yeah.
Exactly. That's the good one for you. 1,000 different points trying to connect it all.
Yeah.
And Rabbeinu is going to put it all full circle at the end. You're going to see how crazy it is. So what's the idea? Rabbeinu is trying to hint to us all these different types of otzar, all these different types of treasure houses, to point to the fact that it's all dependent on one thing, which is the yirat Hashem yotzaro. For the yira is going to cause everything else. It's going to cause the arichut yamim, then by default giving you wealth.
Sure.
Essentially, all these the atik, all these things, tikkun atik, etc., etc., etc. And now Rabbeinu is going to connect it full circle with the breath. So let's see what he says. At v'hagshamim.
והגשמים הם מבחינת הנשימה, שמכניסין ומקבלים אוויר מן החוץ, כמו שכתוב מנשימה אל ייתן קרח ורוחב מים במוצק. זה בחינה.
So yeah, maybe you can help me with the last pasuk on Eov.
It says,
From
by the breath of Hashem, ice is made, the expense of water is poured out.
B'mutzak. I think it's the idea of force, essentially.
Okay.
Okay, so let's see what it says here. And so too, all the storehouses we said earlier of Ashirut are created through Gshamim, as we said. And therefore, the Gshamim come from the idea of Neshima, breath, air, life. Why? Because what's air or breath? You're taking air from outside. You're bringing in air, you're inhaling air that exists outside. As it says in the pasuk, Nishmat el yiten karach, from by the breath of God yiten karach. What did we say karach was? Ice. The roch hamayim, and the expanse of water, b'mutzak, pushing through. This idea of mutzak. So let's see what it says here. That the ice and the water is created through the air. As it says, minishmat kel, from the air of Hashem, ice is formed, and the expanse of water is formed. So the expanded water is formed. So air and ice, or water and ice, are formed through the inyan of neshima, air. From this pasuk, we see, in of as if we can say something like this, that that these things are formed through the ruach of Hashem's breath, essentially. Because that's what it seems to be saying in the pasuk. Minishmatke, from the breath by the breath of God. What that seems to mean, the ruach of Hashem in a sense. And therefore, because Ashirut comes from, we said, the rain. Yirat Hashem hi otzaro. We talked about this idea of Yitach lecha Hashem lecha otzaro atov latet metartzecha. That the shefa we're talking about, the Ashirut we're talking about, is associated with rain, which is the treasure house. So therefore, because Hashem's Ashirut, or Ashirut, comes through the Gshamim, the rain that we mentioned earlier, and the rain comes through what? Arichut HaNeshima, the extended breath that we just talked about right now. Min Nishmatker, from the breath of Hashem, and obviously Hashem's breath is expanded, it's extended.
So we create with a short breath, he creates with an extended.
Exactly. Everything is formed through his long breath. He breathed, he breathed into Adam's, he breathed into his nostrils, Nishmat Chaim, the soul of life. So we see everything Hashem does with an extended spirit. So what is Rabbeinu teaching us? What's the practicality of this idea? One who is chomed after Yofi Anashim, one who covets a woman's beauty or desires a woman's beauty, which is Hefsek Neshima, as we talked about, is the opposite of Ashirut. Because what did we just say Ashirut is? It comes from the rain. What's rain? From Hashem's extended breath. So now Rabbeinu puts full circle the opposite of Ashirut.
Can you say that again one more time?
Yeah. So we talked about the idea of being chomed after Yofi Anashim, we understand, is Hefsek Neshima.
Yes.
We said though that Hashem's Ashirut, which is his storehouse, which is the rain, because all the storehouses come from the rain.
Which is the rain.
Because it says, what did it say? Yiftach Hashem lecha et otzaro hatov latet metaratzecha. Hashem will open up his storehouse to give you rain.
Okay, got it.
Which means what? That the rain is the shefa of the storehouse. Where does the storehouse get all of its koach from the rain? So what's this idea? What's the rain also now? We said earlier, the rain is the neshima. As it says, Hashem, by the breath of God, he creates ice and he expands the waters. What's the ice it's talking about? How everything is cycled from the water and then it goes up into the cloud and the cloud creates this drop. So what are we saying here? Therefore, one who God forbid desires a woman's beauty, which is Hefsek Neshima, is the opposite of wealth. And therefore, one who merits Yira is guarded from Chemda, from Yofi Anashim, as we talked about earlier. He's guarded from Hebel Yofi and Yofi Anashim. He's guarded from Sheker Chen and Hebel Yofi, Chinot Shel Sheker and Hebel Yofi, which are connected, as we talked about in the last class.
He's guarded.
He's guarded from that. Yirah protects you from those things. And you therefore merit Arichut HaNeshima, which is Ashirut Dikusha, holy well. Now Rabbeinu is saying, at a practical level, let's go tachlis, what he's talking about. Protect yourself from Chemda for Yofi Anashim. Because when you protect yourself from the Chemda for Yofi Anashim at a practical level, and you guard your eyes essentially, and you don't focus on that, you focus more on the Pnimiyut, what ends up happening now is you increase your Yira. Which is why, by the way, being Chomed after Yofi Anashim.
That's what I don't understand. What comes first? Like the Yira or the...
So they both play into each other.
Okay.
The Yira will protect you from that,
and
protecting yourself from that will also give you granted Yira.
Okay.
If you have an extended Yirat Shamayim for whatever reason, because there's many ways to attain Yirat Shamayim, right? Yeah. You can attain Yirat Shamayim through studying Halacha. Rabbeinu writes in Sefer Amidot. Through studying Shulchan Aruch, a person attains Yirat Shamayim. You can also attain Yirat through praying out loud in Tefillah. Because Tefillah is Gvod and all these Inyanim. There's so many different ways to attain Yirat Shamayim that will help you, assist you in attaining, you know what I mean, in protection. If you see that you're still being chomed after Yofi Anashim because there's a pgam in your yira, there's a pgam in your fear. So Rabbeinu was saying, focus on that. If you focus on not being chomed after Yofi Anashim, you will perfect your fear by default. Yeah. Because they're two opposites. Essentially, they cannot handle each other. Yira cannot handle that subject. Which is why Yira is Isha Yirat Hashem ititela. Isha Yirat Hashem, the woman which fears God, is a praiseworthy thing. Whereas it says earlier, sheker achen ve'evel hayofi. But what's the difference? It's because now it's no longer about the chitzoniyut anymore. It's no longer about the yofi anashim. It becomes the yirat Hashem. Isha yirat Hashem. When you look at the woman for the yira, that gives you yirat Shemayim.
Yeah.
Hititalat is praiseworthy. And tefillah is obviously yira. It's all connected. Okay. So there's so many different elements how they tie together. But Rabbeinu is essentially teaching us at a practical level not to be chomed after yofi anashim. Because when you are chad v'shalom, create hefsek anashima, which is the opposite of ashirut.
Yeah. Therefore,
almost damaging your ashirut, your parnasa in a sense. So it's a very, very crazy thing to teach us how Rabbeinu is going from one subject which seems totally unrelated to such a different thing.
Yeah.
How shmirat enayim now, because this is what we're talking about also, how shmirat enayim can affect your parnasa. And Rabbeinu doesn't seem to be saying that at all, but you see how
that's what he's saying.
That's what he's teaching us.
Yeah.
How your shmirat enayim essentially, not being chomed after your actually not looking at those things, not covering them even in your machshava too, because the eyes and the machshava are connected.
I feel like it's even like thinking a step, like from what I'm saying, it's like even if like you're talking to, or if you're with a woman, your mind should just be focused on like who is she, what's her pnimiyut.
Yeah, exactly.
Now what's on the, so obviously it's
exactly.
the shmirat enayim, but also just like what are you looking at? What are you really 100%. Looking at? Because like you said, I think you said before, like there's so much beauty within the woman, like we were saying with Abraham and Yitzchak.
Exactly, that they themselves.
There's so much is there, but it's what are you focusing on?
It's crazy that they sense when they walk into that place in Egypt, or in the Gra for Yitzchak.
Yeah. They
sense the yofi anashim. Just by sensing it, they realize they could not be with their wife, which is a crazy thing to teach us. That one, they were never with their wife with the kavana being chomed after their wife. Just an insane madriga we're talking about here.
Yeah.
And we're talking about what they say is the, you know what I mean? The most beautiful woman, Rivka, Sarah, all these things. Everything is Hashem Shamayim, with prime Yirat Shamayim. And by the fact that they felt the Yofi Anashim, they felt the Yira was not full. En Yira b'makom hazeh. There's no Yira in this place. I forget the language of the Pasuk, but really how this Chemda for Yofi Anashim is indicative of your Yirat Shamayim. Which is an amazing thing how Rabbeinu was connecting it, and how he gets from the breath to the how the breath is enclosed in the drop.
This part was just so crazy. It literally, I thought he was going like off topic,
and then he brings it back.
Because the last lesson was like, okay, now it's starting to flow, and then it was just like
totally.
Where are we right now?
We're in a jungle right now. But now it
now he brought it
because back. That's what Rabbeinu like. Okay, well, how is that connected to this Inyan? Final second, like one pasuk he needs, one word he needs, and he'll tie it full circle. Wow, it's great, but this is why it's so at its level. We can say Likutei Moharan b'pshitut, you know what I mean, and get it at pshat. Get it at pshat, because who understands really Likutei Moharan? Rabbeinu said only a person who can read Likutei Moharan panim ve'achora ba'al peh, person who knows Likutei Moharan ba'al peh, front and backwards, meaning he can recite the entire Likutei Moharan backwards, can understand this book. What are we talking about here? You know what I mean? But B'Pshitut, Rabbi Natan said the main thing is the Pashtut Kavanah, like the simple Kavanah of what he's trying to say, the practical advice, what to take out from it. So practically, Rabbi was saying, is this Chemda for Yofi Anashim is affecting your Yira, which thereby affects your Arechut Amim, which thereby affects your Ashirut. And therefore you will never get to that Hibbonin which we're talking about.
Does the commentary in that book say anything more about like, that was really interesting what it said about the Yirat Shamayim being Hashem's
treasure house?
Treasure house.
So I think Rabbeinu Mevi Kan et Inyan HaOtzarot Benifrad. Rabbeinu brings this idea of treasure houses separately, right? We talk about the treasure house of the rain. We talked about it earlier, right? In order to hint to us the Otzar of Yirat Shamayim, which is this treasure house of the fear of Hashem. Which is what causes all the other treasure houses, because Yira is the source of everything. Once you have the Yira, you have everything else. Remember we said Yira is the depending factor of whether you're going to attain Arechut Amim, which will then determine whether you're going to even attain Ashirut. So there's so many steps before you get to the Ashirut that you need to attain first, midot wise. Yirat Shamayim. and your Yirat Shamayim is affected by how much you look after a woman's beauty.
Okay, got it.
And therefore that air also, Rabban was going to connect, and we talked about the air of Hashem giving forth to ice and water, etc., etc., which is the idea of rain. So how the neshima is, how the breath is essentially connected to rain. Is there anything else here? מנשיבת רוחו של הקדוש ברוך הוא מגיע הקרח שעל ידו מגיע רוחה במים למכור צר ודחוק. So what did it say in the Mitzvah David, in basically the pshat of the pasuk? From the breath of Hashem's ruach, the ice, magia kerach, the ice is essentially arrives, it comes. And through that ice, magia rocha b'mayim, the expansive waters are able to reach makom tzar v'dachok, the dachok, or essentially a very narrow place. דהיינו, שהמים שווים, שהמים שבים, אינם יכולים להעלות גלים בגלל הקרח שעליהם. What is it saying essentially? That the water in the sea are not able to elevate these waves because of the ice that is upon them. What is that? So essentially, the only way to be able to go is whenever the water is able to penetrate a certain place, because ice cannot go through certain...
Yeah.
Only whenever it transforms into water is it able to reach very narrow places, because water will travel through absolutely anything. But sometimes you'll go to Antarctica, you see glaciers, you can't do anything, there's no wave, it's done, it's, you know what I mean? Because, so what's the air? Essentially the air transforms the ice into water. That's the air of Hashem Yitbarach.
Ice into water, okay.
Because the air is essentially cooled, it cools it off essentially.
Okay.
So that's what Hashem is essentially doing. The air of Hashem, Shivat Rucho, Yiten Kerach, Verochav Mayim Mutzak. We'll create the ice and then we'll turn it into water so that it can reach the place that it's Tzar and Dachuk. Essentially Hashem's air is transforming.
What's the ice representative of?
In the Pasuk, Rabbeinu doesn't seem to be going into the direction of...
That's what I'm just trying to understand, like what's the
connection between the Sinyan?
Or just what does that even mean, like the ice and the water? Like I don't know.
That's the pshat of the pasuk. Does it have to do anything with how Rabbeinu was explaining with how the air, how the breath is affecting the gshamim, the rain?
Yeah.
No. Okay. At a deeper element, maybe it does. How the entire structure. I don't know how rain works essentially, but how it goes from the air and evaporates into the sky and all these things, and how the clouds are able to form this rain and thing like this. Rabbeinu is definitely hinting to that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not capable of explaining it, how it's connected. But what we talked about is the nishmat kel, the breath of Hashem, being essentially the neshima. The extended ruach is responsible for gshamim, for rain, which is the expansive waters, which is talking about the shefa, the otzar, because the otzar is connected to the rain.
Okay.
All these different things. So let's see what it says here. So let's see what there's a Gemara Nedarim that's actually very connected to the Sinyan.
What is this?
Gemara Nedarim Daf Chaf Amud Bet, page 20b, that explains over there. I think Sheshalu le'ima Shalom. They asked Ima Shalom, mother of peace. Who is that? The wife of Rab Eliezer Hagadol, who was the sister of Achoto shel Rabban Gamliel, who was the sister of Rabban Gamliel. Essentially, the sister of Rabban Gamliel married Rabbi Eliezer Hagadol.
I think they always Gemara. They're always like
they're arguing.
Yeah.
Machloket.
I think so. I can be wrong.
It's possible.
I think so.
מפני מה בניך יפייפים ביותר? Why are your children more beautiful than others? They asked her. אמרה להן, אינו מספר עימי? מתי גם הדברים מקדושתו וצניעותו, ואמרתי לו, מה טעם? Funny, I'm having a blockage on how to translate this thing. אמרה להן, I think she responded back to them, אינו מספר עימי. Let's see what that means. ומתי כמה דברים מקדושתו וצניעותו. ואמרתי לו, מה טעם? ואמר לי, כדי שלא ייתן את עיניי באישה אחרת. So I think she spoke to her husband, Rabbi Eliezer HaGadol, and asked him why it was that we merited such beautiful children. Because she was saying it's not from me, it's from him. But why from him? So when she asked her husband, when she asked her husband the question, Rabbi Eliezer HaGadol responded like this. So she responded back to the group of people who asked her why her children are beautiful. So she asked her husband, she's telling him, I asked my husband this question once, and he responded back to me. What did he say? Why? Because I did not put my eyes on another woman. Did not have chemda for yofi anashim. Basically, he merited beautiful children. Why? Because he was careful from having chemda for hevel yofi anashim, for vain beauty of women. Which means now there was no his neshima, even his hefsek neshima had tremendous koach, tremendous kedusha. Because what? His yichah was restored, his neshima was restored, and thereby creating a beautiful child. That's the Gemara. I hope I translated that properly. I think I did at least. So what did he say here? So what does Rabbi Natan say, explaining Likutei Halachot Even HaZeh? Something very small. That the zivug, which comes from chemdat for yofi anashim, can affect the child, obviously. Zivug, which is obviously motivated by that desire for beauty. But however, a holy zivug is the aspect of yirat Hashem tosif yamim. The fear of Hashem prolongs a person's days, adds days. And therefore, Rabbi Natan explained in Likutei Halachot, therefore a person comes through ashirut, through that zivug. Why? Because through that zivug, you're not being chomed after your finashim, you're restoring your yira, so therefore it gives you arichot yamim, thereby giving you ashirut.
And then we said before, the wealth comes from the woman.
Exactly, the zivug. So it's all this in there. Because when you're not being, it's amazing. Yeah. When you're not being chomed after your finashim, you're not taking anything for yourself. It's for the woman, it's for the kavod of the woman. You know, we talk about like, okay, we have to honor our wives, this, that, whatever it is.
What does that mean?
What does that mean? Minimizing your own honor, maximizing the honor of your wife. It's like the same thing with Hashem Yitbarach. How do you give kavod to Hashem? You have to minimize yourself. Me too. Yeah. Same is true of this. If you have something to gain, meaning if you're trying to really gain from this, there's a place where you can take from something else. Mm-hmm. But if you're really not trying to take from something else, give them essentially the shlemut, the perfection, by default, you're giving them all the kavod, which is also essentially a way to attain ashirut. Yeah. That's in the Gemara. Give honor to your wives, for that's where you will get rich. I'm going to explain in lesson 69 this entire idea that giving honor to the wife is essentially the way to expand her soul. And therefore, when you expand her soul, therefore she's able to expand the parnasah of her husband. Many subjects connected.
That was just awesome.
Huh?
I don't know. I'm like, I love that.
Yeah, there's a lot to it.
That was really awesome.
But it's connected. It's
all, how connected.
There's always so many small things that are connected to each other. You know. Yeah. Trying to see if we have any other small things here that we can, you know what I mean, explain. So essentially, we talked about how the two drops. Just to clarify, the hevel is mitlabesh in a koach hadoche. The hevel is enclosed within the koach hadoche. The pushing force. In order to form the child. And then the second thing is that the hevel is mitlabesh in the tipa also. It's enclosed within the tipa too, not just the pushing force, but also in the drop itself to create how the child's going to be formed, purity-wise, health-wise, this, that. Mm-hmm. How healthy your child will be, how fair he'll be. Everything is determined to that. Mm-hmm. And the error is in both of those, the pushing force and in the drop itself. I think that's for commentary. I don't know. And by the way, just I think a small subject which I think is important to explain, because we talked about ashirut, right? Wealth. And we see people who have the shalom program in the Brit Kodesh who damage the Brit and they have tremendous wealth. Yeah. So what are we talking about here? So Rabbi Natan addresses this in Yored Deah.
What does that mean?
In Yored, in Hilchot, in Shulchan Aruch, in Chelek Yored Deah. In that section, which is all the miscellaneous things in halacha. So, explain the even though there are wealthy people who damage in the Brit Kodesh, their wealth is worth nothing. It's nothing at all. For they didn't merit holy wealth. All their wealth is in the aspect of Avodah Zarah. It has no Kedusha. Therefore, they will never find simcha in their wealth. They will never be able to find histapkut b'muad. You know, we talk about like being sameach b'chelek.
Yeah, that would just be like satisfied.
Greed, yeah, that's the word, satisfied.
So not even like, oh, no, you're saying not even like, I need to make, you can be satisfied and want to make more. Like, meaning like,
yeah, meaning Hashem, like,
good, not like I'm good, I'm going to stop, just like.
No, yeah, I'm good. Hashem, thank you, yeah.
Amazing, this is great. And if I get more, okay.
Great. Because that's the thing, histapkut b'muad. Rabbeinu always talks about this.
Oh, there's no
being
chase.
Content,
yeah.
Exactly.
It's not you're not chasing.
You're not chasing. Being content with a little bit.
Yeah.
The goal is to expand the kli so that you can be happier with less.
Yeah.
Meaning to demand less. Meaning you're not demanding much. If Hashem gives you more, great.
Yeah.
But you're not demanding anything. It's what Hashem decides. Which is already a dot that a person needs, you know?
Yeah. You're saying like, that when we see wealth, people become breed, it's not good wealth. It's not wealth.
Yeah, any person who has wealth with Kama Breed,
yeah.
Their wealth, their money is cursed. It has no, it's not ashirut at all.
Yeah.
It's not wealth. It's not considered ashirut. It has no gvanin, it has no colors. Like Rabbeinu says in lesson 25.
Yeah. There's this book that it's not a Jewish book, but it talks about the psychology of money. And it goes, there's being rich, and then there's being wealthy. Being rich means on the outside you have the sports car, you have the house, you have all that. In your bank account, you actually really don't have that much.
Right.
Wealth is the guy that's driving, like.
Stop.
Yeah, he slept.
Oh my god, I can't with this deodorant I bought you. I'm sorry. I don't like I don't know why, black deodorant. Hi.
He's saying wealth is really what you have in the bank account, not what you have on the outside.
Exactly.
So sort of like these people, they're rich, but they're not like wealthy. Like what's on the inside?
That's the inyan. If Hashem is granting you something, He is your bank account. Meaning, when you really put your bitachon in Hashem Yibach and your emunah in Hashem, you know that He's granting you everything. Therefore, there's no need to be chasing anything. Meaning, because you know where it comes from. The more a person increases bitachon as emunah, the more he'll be content with a little bit, because he'll know that he doesn't need to do that much to be able to attain whatever he feels he needs to draw, you know? Because Hashem is in charge, really, especially in the Inyan and Parnasah. It's such a good. He masks it so well to incorporate Parnasah within the world of nature that it seems impossible that you can earn a living through such ease, when really. It's all dependent on how much emunah you have. And also depending on how much emunah, how much bitachon you have, you also demand less of Hashem Yitbarach.
Yeah.
Give and take. You're building a kli, but you're also not demanding much. But that's where the simcha comes, really.
Your expectations. You're changing your expectations.
Exactly. Meaning what really makes you happy. You're going to the tachlit of what is true simcha. Which is Ashirut Kedusha.
Yeah.
Ashirut Kedusha has a simcha within it. The entire curse of Adam HaRishon is Be'itzavon Tochalena. You're going to eat in sadness. Bezeyat apecha tochalechem. By the sweat of your brow, you'll eat bread. But Rabbeinu says one who's attached to the true tzaddik, really attached to the true tzaddik, he does not fall under the curse of Adam. It's how much emunah you have, how much you're associated with the true tzaddik, who's beyond the curse, because Adam HaRishon had all the neshamot except for those neshamot, the neshama of the true tzaddik, the bechinat Moshe Rabbeinu, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Nachman. what we're talking about, they never fell under that curse. It was never something that ever affected them because they were beyond the neshama of Adam HaRishon. They left the body of Adam. All the other neshamot that were encompassed within Adam's soul, body were affected. Every single tzaddik throughout history, except for the neshama of Moshe Rabbeinu. And there's 5 associated with that. And those 5 never really touched it. Rabbeinu said, therefore, one who's attached to the true tzaddik doesn't fall under the curse of Adam HaRishon. He was never cursed with that curse. Because his da'at is sharon. Rabbeinu explains how a person's da'at affects his parnasah, how easy his parnasah is. Lefi da'at, ken parnasah benakel. According to a person's da'at, will determine how easy a person's parnasah is. Which is the goal, obviously.
Yeah.
To be able to do Avodat Hashem, to study Torah, to go do Idbolut, while not needing to work that much at all. You know? Because Hashem, the dream. The dream, bro. Because Hashem tests a person within Parnasah because his emunah is lacking. So sometimes a person needs to go through many tests in work and stuff like that to be able to lift his emunah, to look up to the sky within that dark place. And through that tefillah, you're being metaken, the fall you went through, or the difficulty of work, and the questions, and the doubts, and the problem with employees, and this guy who screwed you, like, you know, all this stuff. How it happens is all to increase your emunah, your trust in Hashem Yitbarach. Rabbeinu said, before a person attains true ashirut Dikdusha, you need to scream Kam Kalin, you need to scream 140 cries. I don't know how much each cry is worth, but like real cries.
Yeah. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
What was it? What, 170 cries?
Exactly. So what did it say? That it says that the idea that why 70 cries and why 140? Because the woman, like you just mentioned cried out 70 cries at birth, which is why we say Mizmor David Hashem Yancha Be'Mitzara. That Mizmor David.
When do we say that?
We say that in Shacharit, after Ashre, and Valtion and Kedusha de Sidra, right after Sefer.
Oh, yeah.
Second half.
Yeah.
There's 70 words in there, corresponding to the 70 cries of the woman. That's why it's a segula to read that. Also, there's many inyanim connected.
Yeah.
But why 140 for Parnasah? Kam Kalin. Because the inyan of Parnasah is the 70 cries the Shekhinah screams about a person who falls into Tavat Zaman. Kalani meroshi, heavy is my head. Kalani mezroi, heavy is my arms. Referencing Avodah Zarah, a person who falls into Avodah Zarah. And what's Rabbeinu says Avodah Zarah is today? Tavat Mamon. So 70 and 70 for each one.
Wow.
Therefore, it's 140. So Rabbeinu says a person needs to fall sometimes into Tavat Mamon, Chad v'Shalom. Like, you fall there by default because you know it's perfect. You go through those places and you need to cry out 140 cries before a person attains that Shirut Dikdusha. To get out on the other side, to win the war. Yeah. To win the battle. When you're attached to the tzaddik, you have that much easier. Because the tzaddik did this b'shlemut. And he gives you that koach. Brit melach, he gives you the brit, which essentially covers the bitterness of parnasah, like having to go earn a living and all this stuff. Like, all these things are connected. Your chemda for your finashim is determined by your brit kodesh. How kadosh are you in the brit? That will determine your parnasah. So everything is always structured. Rabbeinu seems to be taking the focus on here, this inyan of chemda for your finashim will affect your yirat shamayim, your arichut, and your ashirut. Thereby yidbonanut, obviously, you know. All these, the smallest thing, just being chomed after your finashim, has tremendous consequences. And obviously, Rabbeinu is going to give us tools on how to defeat that. You know, that's where we.
So he doesn't just leave you.
No, empty-handed. No, Rabbeinu is going to give us the tools, bro. For sure. So that's where we are with the inyan of the breath. We talked about the breath is connected to Geshamim, and this idea of Geshamim being related to Arichut and Neshima, and how Yofi Anashim, which is Hefsek and Neshima, which is pause breath, short breath, is the opposite of Ashirut, which is extended breath, long breath, which is the rain, which is comes from the breath of Hashem, which is extended, obviously. Yeah. All that pile condensed into one small thing, and obviously we're reviewing here, but you know, that's the idea. Where do you...
I'm good. It's up to you.
We can go a little bit more if you want to.
Yeah, I'm
Let's
good
do it.
again. Yeah.
Let's go. Visit.
וזה בחינת הון עשיר, קריאת עוזו, היינו שהעשירות הוא על ידי בחינת הנשימה, שהוא אוויר הקר שמקבלים בכל רגע מן החוץ כנ"ל, וזהו. וקריאת עוזו בחינת. גשם מטרות עוזו.
Exactly.
עוזו.
So now Rabbeinu is going to give us psukim. We just talked about this subject earlier about the connection between Ashirut and Tusha, holy wealth, and extended breath. And how it's opposite, how Ashirut has an opposite with Hevel She'en, with a Hevel, with a breath that isn't properly fixed, that isn't properly shalem, with half breath, pause breath, short breath. So now I bring down the pasuk in Mishlei. Hon Ashir Kiryat Uzo. That a man's wealth, or the hon is abundant wealth. Hon Ashir, the abundant wealth of the Hon Ashir, I think abundant wealth, Kiryat Uzo, is a man's stronghold. I think that's what it's saying.
Mm-hmm.
It's a wall, essentially. Kiryat Uzo, the man's stronghold.
Okay.
Meaning what? It's coming to hint to us that Hanusha Hashirut.
Yeah, you're stronghold. The rich man's wealth is stronghold.
Yeah, the rich man's wealth is a stronghold.
Yeah.
Okay. Now what that really means. Hanu, coming to teach us that one. Shashirut, that wealth, which is obviously the rich. Which wealth are we talking about? The wealth of the rich man that we just mentioned in the pasuk. The rich man's wealth. Hu alidei bechinat haneshima, reaches him only by means of the fact or by account of the neshima, the extended breath. Now we're connecting the inyan of ashirut to extended breath, which we said earlier comes from Hashem's extended breath, which creates the rain, and the rain is obviously the ashirut.
Oh.
So, alidei bechinat haneshima shehu avir hakar shemekablim bechol rega min hachutz kanam. What's neshima breath? That air, that cold air which a person intakes every single moment from the outside. That's that oxygen that you're taking in constantly. That cold air. Because if you breathe in, you feel it's cold.
Yeah.
So that's what we're talking about here. Vezeo kiryat uzo. This is a man's stronghold. What's a man's stronghold? Kiryat, stronghold. Kiryat, kiryat is like, I think it's a wall or essentially or whatever. Kiryat comes from the word koch, cool. What's this idea? That cold air. And what's the uzo we're going to talk about here? Is the gshamim. I'm going to say that the gshamim is referencing the uzo part of kiryat uzo. Kiryat is the kirut, the coolness of the air, right? Yeah. And what uzo is the gshamim, as it says in the pasuk, geshem mitrot uzo. The geshem mitrot, geshem and matar are the same idea. The rains of Hashem's strength. Geshem mitrot uzo. Meaning what? That geshem is called oz. It's called strength. We also say gvurot geshamim. We say in how many times the Gemara Ta'anit and all this idea of gvurot geshamim, the powerful rains. This idea of gvurot geshamim. Essentially, geshem is called oz, strength. Kiryat uzo, hon ashir, the wealth of a man. Ashirut, kiryat uzo, is the coolness of the breath, which is connected to the air. Yeah. Connected to the rain. Exactly. So what are we studying? What are we understanding here? The principle that we mentioned above in the last section, right? That the ashirut of the wealthy man, the holy ashirut that we're talking about, has to come from Hashem's extended breath, which is the cold air that we're talking about, which forms the rain. So what's this idea? That the ashirut is in the merit of the arichut haneshima. The wealth is in the merit of that extended breath, that long breath, which is that cold air, which then causes the strong rains. So the air is responsible for the rains. Okay. The breath of Hashem. Nishmat kel yiten karach berocha mayim b'mtzuka. As we talked about earlier. B'mutzak. As we talked about earlier. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. וזה
שכתוב, היש בהבלי הגויים מגשימים, כי בהבל הגויים שהם בחינת הפסק הנשמה, בחינת הבל יופי הנ"ל אין שם בחינת גשמים, כי גשמים הם רק על ידי הנשמה כנ"ל.
So, Hayesh. So it brings it in the Yamia. Hayesh behavle hagoyim makshimim. Do the vapors of the goyim, does the air of the goyim possess kshimim? I think it's referencing rain.
Yeah.
How do they translate it over there? Okay, that might not be the pshat.
You wrote
Makshimim.
the ability to bring rain.
The ability to bring rain. Okay. If you have pshat, Rabbeinu is going directly into it. Hayesh behavle hagoyim. Do the goyim have? Does the goyim air, the avil that they take in, have the ability to bring rain? Because we just talked about earlier that the ashirut digdusha, which is what do you call it? The idea of the rain, which is received from the air, the cold air, because our air is extended.
Mm-hmm.
It has the ability to bring rain. Ashirut, obviously, but do the goyim have that ability? And we're going to see that no, they obviously do not. Why? Ki behavle hagoyim, because in the hevel of the goyim, which is the hevel for yofi anashim, that we were talking about earlier. Pause breath. Shem bechinat hefsek nishma, which is this short breath. Bechinat hevel yofi hana, which we talked about, is this vain beauty that we mentioned earlier, this desire for a beautiful woman. And sham bechinat kshami, there's no rain possessing that subject, obviously, because hefsek nishma doesn't have the ability to bring rain. Only extended breath, only long breath has the ability to bring rain. Because rain is the otzar, as we talked about earlier. It's the treasure house. What's a treasure house? It's the ashirut. So what are we talking about here? Only the extended breath, which is the breath of Hashem, the ruach of Hashem Yitbach, has the ability to bring rain, which is ashirut and all these ideas. But not the hevel of the goyim, because the hevel of the goyim is hefsak and neshima. They cut off the shefa. They have no ability to bring down ashirut dikdusha we're talking about here. And
Because they don't have yira.
Because the yira is damaged by the fact that they're chomed after yofi anashim. But the chomed after the chemda for yofi anashim creates short breath. We talked about this entire how it leads to one another.
Yeah.
So what's the idea? Therefore, they cannot get to ashirut dikdusha, obviously, because they have short breath. Short breath is the opposite of ashirut dikdusha. Ki kshamim, for rains, for the rains is only created by means of the neshima, the breath, but the extended one. Which is the opposite of hefsek and neshima, as you mentioned, above. So the hefsek and neshima comes from the desire for woman, desire for beauty, and as we talked about earlier, that the true yirat shamayim, or the true yirat shamayim helps a person with the extended breath, obviously, not being chomed after yofi anashim, etc., etc. Vizeh.
וזה בחינת הון מהבל ימת על ידי הבל נעל נטמאה ההון. זה בחינת וקר רוח איש תבונה על ידי קר רוח שהוא רוח הקר של הנשימה, על ידי זה זוכים להתבוננות הנ"ל, שבא על ידי העשירות כנ"ל.
So it's amazing. This is what it says. And now Rabbeinu is going to explain how the hevel yofi essentially minimizes a person's ashirut. It minimizes a person's
Do
wealth.
you just feel like everything's shaking before?
Why? There's an earthquake or
No, my
something?
wife was just like, yeah, I think there's an earthquake. Okay.
Really?
Yeah.
I think my family group said it's going. Oh yeah.
Someone said
My plant was dancing. I feel the earthquake.
I felt something. I thought you were shaking the table or something.
Oh no! I didn't feel anything fully.
Really?
Yeah, I did not feel anything.
Okay. So.
Very funny. It's crazy, okay. I'm sure that's connected to what we're talking about right now. The rain, the this, the that.
We're shaking.
I mean,
We're
the
shaking
gvura.
something up.
Baruch Hashem. So what's it saying here? Now Rabbeinu is going to explain. We just talked about how Ashirut Dikdusha is connected to extended Arichut HaNeshima. Ashirut Dikdusha is connected to Arichut HaNeshima. It's dependent on Arichut HaNeshima, extended breath. Long breath, perfect breath, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now Rabbeinu is going to explain how Hevel Yofi minimizes wealth. He's going to bring Pasukim to prove it.
Okay.
As it says in the Pasuk, Bechinat, Hon mehevel imat. Wealth, mehevel imat, will be diminished by Hevel. Okay, what does that mean? Alidei Hevel Hana, meaning through that Hevel that we mentioned above, which is the short Hevel, Hevel Yofi, or the Hevel, the vain beauty. Because the vain beauty, Hevel literally means vain.
Yeah.
It also comes from the word Habalim, which is
Which is what?
Hevel also means vapor, air. It's connected.
Yeah.
The Hevel, which is vanity, which is like air because it's not tangible. The Hevel, it's the same connotation. There's Hevel and Hevel. Hevel Hayofi, vain beauty, and then there's, of course, this idea of the air. It says, Yesh Hevel Asher Na'asa al haaretz. There's a vapor upon, which is made upon the earth. Vapor, this air. So what's Rabbeinu saying here? Hon, wealth, the Hevel Imat, is diminished by this Hevel. Which Hevel is he talking about here? The Hevel Hayofi, the vain beauty which you're attracted to, God forbid. By doing that, you attract yourself to the short breath, therefore blocking your Ashirah Dikdusha. For short breath is the exact opposite. So what is Rabbeinu saying? Nitmanet Zahon. But due to the Hevel that we mentioned above, this Hevel Hayofi, it's a short breath. You therefore diminish your Ashirah Dikdusha, your wealth, this holy wealth. Because true wealth, when Rabbeinu says Hon, Bipshitut, right? No, Ashirah Dikdusha. To teach us the idea, Bipshitut.
Yeah.
To teach us the idea that real wealth is only when we're talking about holiness. Hon. He just says Hon, wealth. Because you can only have wealth when you're Kadosh. There's no such thing as wealth when you're not Kadosh. It's not wealth. It's not wealth.
Yeah.
True wealth is only whenever it has purpose, it has kavanah, has direction, has tachlit.
Yeah.
That's real wealth. Simcha. Or else your parnasa is worthless without simcha. So there's all these ideas. And then you mentioned earlier, and this is what it says, that through the, now we're going to explain, that through the Arichut HaNeshima, which is the distancing from Hevel Hayofi, because the more you distance yourself from this Chemda for Yofi Anashim, the more you attain extended breath, you merit Ashirut, which then gets you to Ibonanut. Because Ibonanut is the tachlit of this entire Torah.
Yeah.
It's the first line, but we haven't even talked about it.
Yeah.
What's this Ibonanut? Mechinat, it says in the Pasuk, V'kar ruach ish tevuna. V'kar ruach, the cold spirit, ish tevuna is the man of understanding. This man of bina, hidbonanut, contemplation. Well, what's it talking about here? What's he hinting to? That thanks to the cold spirit, by through the cold spirit, which is the cold air of the breath that you take in the inhaling, which is obviously the extended breath we're talking about here. Thereby, thanks to this extended breath, a person merits hidbonanut, contemplation. The contemplation we mentioned above in the first line of the Torah, which a person can only attain through Ashirut. So the extended breath, therefore, as we see in this pasuk, v'kar ruach ish tevuna. Kar ruach, the cold spirit, is the man of understanding, because the only way to be a man of understanding is to attain the kar ruach, which is what kiryatuzo, hon ashir kiryatuzo. The hon ashir, the wealth of the rich man is a stronghold. Meaning what? The krirut, the coldness of the breath, creates the uzo, which is the kshamim, which is the rain, and thereby gives you ashirut, which then what? Affects your hibonanut.
Wow.
That's the connection. It's a very long list.
Yeah.
The more we get into this, the more we'll see how much this flows, because Rabbeinu was really trying to, you know what I mean? Give us a structure. So thank God, through this v'kar ruach, through the cold spirit, which is the Arichut HaNeshima, you attain ish tevuna. You become a man of understanding. That's the hidbonanut we are all seeking after, that we're yearning for. That there's shvilim, as we talked about in the first line, that there's shvilim in the Torah, there's pathways in the Torah, that it's impossible to perceive them except through great wealth. And now Rabbeinu seems to be hinting at the subject of this Ashirut Dikdusha being determined by your Arichut HaNeshima. Meaning it's like, we think it's so far away from us. But it's not far away from us at our madrega. To attain Ashirut Dikdusha according to our madrega, to give us hidbonanut according to our madrega, according to our kli, is very possible by refining the breath, which is refined through distancing yourself from Hevel Hayofi. Shmirat einayim, kedushat habrit, not focusing, plimut. Because hidbonanut is the plimut. The bina is all within the chabad, it's all within the mind.
Yeah.
It's all plimut. We're talking about everything is plimut here. It's all to go into the tachlit. Is it the hevel, or is it the Yishayarat Hashem, the fear of heaven, which is praiseworthy, which is the Otzar of Hashem, which is the Kshanim, which is everything else that we talked about? Or is it you're going to focus on the Chitoniut? And depending on how you take that breath, how much you distance yourself from the Hevel Yofi, will determine actually the chitzoniut of your child, how healthy your child is, and also the pnimiut of your child, how pure your child is, everything. There's so many small things.
Everything.
It's crazy. We talked about the Gemara Nida, that story with Rabbi Eliezer HaGadol, and that he guarded his eyes. That he guarded his eyes.
Yeah.
He protected his eyes from not looking at any other woman, which affected his child's beauty. There's so many secrets here that are, you know what I mean? It's amazing. What did it say? Okay, yeah, that's what we're talking about here. All these subjects coming together at a full, you know what I mean, circle. We actually, we can technically, it's an amazing subject. We're almost at section 4 technically, are we not?
Yeah.
You want to get to section 4? Or do you want to stop here?
Where are we right now?
We are at V'zeh b'chinat V'nishmat Shaddai Tvinan.
Nishmat Shaddai?
Tvinan. We might still have a little bit left.
Yeah. I can do like 10 more minutes.
Because we might start the subject and not
finish it.
Not finish it, which is fine. We can always go back to it.
That's fine.
Okay. So yeah.
ונשמת שדי תבינן כי עיקר התבוננות על ידי נשימה בחינה. קר רוח כנ"ל. כי עיקר תיקון השכל הוא על ידי נשימה. כי עיקר השכל שיהיה על תיקונו שיוכל להתבונן הוא על ידי השמנים שבגוף כי השכל הוא כמו נר הדולק כי הוא דולק על ידי השמנים שנמשכים אליו. והם כמו שמן שנמשך אל פתילה הדולקת.
A couple more words.
ובכשן שמנין בגוף אין השכל יכול לדלוק בהתבוננות מזה באים משוגעים על ידי שנתייבשים לאיכות הגוף על ידי זה נתקלקל המוח על ידי שאין לו שמנין לדלוק.
This is what it's in the pasuk in Ayov. ונשמת שדי תבינן. The soul of the Almighty tevinem. Is that it brings understanding, brings bina? I think that's what it's saying. Shall make you understand. Venishmat Shaddai, the soul of the Almighty tevinem, shall bring you bina. I think. What's this idea? What's the remez in all this idea? Ki ikar for the main bina that's brought down in the pasuk, the main hitbonenut contemplation, which is tevinem in the pasuk, al yedei neshima, is through nishmat shakai, neshima. The breath of the Almighty. The breath is what creates the Ibonanut that we talked about. Just by perfecting the breath, you get to the Ibonanut, which is the Ashirut. You get to, by perfecting the breath, you attain the Yira. You distance yourself from Hevel Yofi by default attaining Yira, attaining Arichot, attaining Ashirut, attaining Ibonanut.
Wow.
Just through the perfection of the breath. Which is why so many Inyanim with regard to the Inyan, how this is a very big secret. With breath work and Rabbeinu this is entire Torah, all the secret of like the lungs and stuff like that. When Rabbeinu would bring a subject of the body part and stuff, Rabbeinu said that I've spoken about every single body part and the healing of every body part. Every Torah is mesugal nikutim moran for a specific healing of a certain place. Mm-hmm. This Torah is specifically with the inyan of the lungs. We're going to talk about the lungs. The mind also does many things, but the lungs specifically because it's all about the neshima, the breath. It's all stored in the lungs. So the hitbonenut is through the neshima, through the breath, which is the karuach, as we talked about. Karuach ish tevuna. The cold spirit is the man of understanding. Through the cold spirit, the man attains hitbonenut, which is the arichot neshima, which is the opposite of hevel yofi, which causes the geshem, which brings ashirut. So that's the way it's structured here. Now, the extended breath, which is the opposite of hevel yofi, brings rain, which then brings ashirut. And through the ashirut, you then attain hitbonenut. And this is what we're going to talk about here. Now, Rabbeinu is going to explain why through arichut neshima a person attains hitbonenut. Why? Ki kar tikun hasechel, for the main rectification of a man's intellect, who are the neshima is through a person's breath. Now, Rabbeinu is saying, the mind is dependent on the lungs, through your breathing. which is the entire secret. Why so many people, why it's such a big thing now, this inyan of breath work. Like, you know, this Wim Hof stuff?
Yeah. Crazy.
There's
Have
so
you ever
many
done breath
secrets.
work?
Never done it.
Done it once recently.
Really?
You know Mary Kay?
Yes, I do actually.
So I did it with him.
Really? Crazy?
Crazy.
Now you go into it next time you do it with
Yeah.
this perception, because you're gonna see how everything Rabban is gonna connect.
Yeah.
He's gonna hide all the secrets here within the inyan breath work.
Yeah.
There's a tzaddik alive today, Baruch Hashem, for his Lefuah Shlema also, Rav Yitzchak Besançon. He's a very big, when I say big, I mean big in Tzidkut. Bresaber Chassid, was close to Rabbi Yisrael, like has a story with the Betek, entire Tikkun HaKlali. Rabbi Yisrael sent to France, arrived at Rabbi Yitzchak Besançon's house without any address. Crazy story. Many big secrets with the tzaddik, but he has classes in French. He's French, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In French. I actually have some tape recordings of old classes in Hebrew, which are literally gems I have hidden that I need to transfer to MP3 and stuff like that. Audio and stuff.
Oh, you have that like on tape or
I have
something?
them on tape, yeah. Crazy.
That's crazy, yeah.
Like, I saw him in Oman last year. God willing, we'll see him this year when we go. Very special, simple individual. He had a book which he printed about the secrets of breath, of breathing, B'fir Rabbeinu HaKadosh, and connected to lesson 60 and all this stuff. And when he revealed that book, he essentially lost his ability to speak. So
Doesn't speak anymore?
he can barely speak. He can't form sentences like.
So
And you
he
see him, he's
published
fully
it,
aware.
and how is it?
He cannot speak. So he took the book off the market and fully took it back. Like, too many secrets in the Sefer.
Oh, you're saying he didn't want anyone else to lose?
Because already by revealing the book, he already
But that's it, he
affected
lost.
himself.
That's crazy.
Now,
He did such a
he's
thing
better now.
recently?
He's better now and stuff, but fully affected his body and everything by revealing those things.
It's crazy.
Meaning there's so,
Yeah.
and I'm just saying that as a simple story.
Yeah.
Like, look at him on YouTube. Just look up Isaac Besançon, Besançon.
Oh, so that's why you're saying those tapes are...
Those tapes are like
because
gems
he's
because
not...
they're hidden classes in Hebrew
Yeah.
that aren't on YouTube. Like, you
Oh,
don't
so
find
he's
them.
not speaking anymore, so...
Exactly. So you see him in Uman. When he was in Uman, it's amazing to see. So we talk about Bresaber Chassidim, you know what I mean? Like, you see him, such a simple,
Are they walking with an entourage, or he's just walking around?
no, he's on a wheelchair and stuff. He has one
Yeah.
guy pushing him. He has
But
Chassidim.
you wouldn't even know that he was
You see him walking around, you wouldn't notice anything.
Yeah.
But he has students. When I say students, I mean
Yeah.
big crew. But not in inyan of kavod at all.
Yeah.
Very unique. You see him. He's an older person. He arrives in his wheelchair to Uman. You don't see older people making that trip. And he's Mesirut Nefesh. The year of COVID, just to give you a little story about him, Rabbi Besançon, very special individual. Just looking at him will give you Itoro, I'm telling you. See people like this in Uman. Very interesting, very unique individuals in Avodat Hashem. In 2020, I think. That year with COVID, there was 2,000 people, 3,000 people in
You
Uman.
were there?
No. I didn't even make the trip. Which is something I need to do, I need to be good for. But it's all about the ratzon, you know?
Yeah.
You know, people were dressing up, we saw all those videos, things on posts everywhere, Hasidim dressing up in a random Hello Kitty t-shirts and stuff like that, to kind of avoid being looked at as Hasidim so that they can get in the country. Pretending to be students, pretending to be this.
That's amazing.
Fully, when I'm telling you this, actually, there's pictures.
They're literally wearing Hello
People
Kitty.
from Borough Park, Hasidim, that tie up their beards, but they wear hats, wearing hat. The guy was wearing
didn't want them
jean
in?
shorts and a Hello Kitty t-shirt, bro. And I tell you, you would freak out by this picture. I screenshotted it immediately. I'm like,
Amazing.
you know how Rabbi Besançon got to Oman that year? He went weeks earlier, and they weren't letting anyone in the country. Remember, we're talking about mid-COVID. When they asked him at the customs, why are you here, your purpose for your visit, nobody was saying, I'm going to Oman, because it's immediate rejection.
Mm-hmm.
He looked at the guy, he said, I'm going to Rabbi Nachman. Fully let through. talking about a level of emunah here, Achi.
Yeah.
There's no yira for anything else. There's no fallen yira. It's so much bitachon to the point where it's not a question. I'm there.
Yeah, I'm going. Yeah.
That's what we're talking about here. See what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
special individual. So you were speaking about this in of breath work.
You gotta send me that picture.
Yeah, crazy. Yeah. Actually, it's like, it was all over Shiva World News and everything. You know, it was very funny, bro. I saw this, I was cracking up. You freak out.
You just probably went to the store and they're just like, okay, well, this looks like something that someone would wear.
He fully got it.
They have no idea.
He got in.
Oh,
he got in. Fully got in.
Oh, that's stupid.
But it's crazy because you see how Hashem works. Where your emunah's holding. For one guy, he needs to go through all the disguise. The other person, he has so much emunah. I'm not even comparing because I didn't even go, so I'm not even in the question. But like, you speak about a person like La Besançon, like, gets to the custom, doesn't even pretend, just, I'm going, and gets in.
Crazy.
Emunah.
Yeah.
It's how much you want it. That's what Rabbeinu teaches us. Depending where your ratzon is, will determine whether you break the obstacles. If your ratzon is sky high, then nothing will drop your ratzon. There's no question you're getting there. You're already there.
Yeah.
It's all a matter. The only reason why you'll have obstacles towards something, and this is one of the biggest yesodot in Rabbeinu's Torah, one of the biggest chidushim in Rabbeinu's Torah, the only reason why you'll have obstacles towards something holy is because you still have a gap in your ratzon. You don't want it enough. And that's your indication. That's assigned to you to tell you, increase your wanting, increase your yearning. And if you increase your yearning, you'll break it all. If you'll get discouraged by the obstacle, then you won't ever get anywhere. It's all about how much you want it. So that's the essential key, you know?
Yeah.
I really
Which is a
want tea.
big... I'm good to Abba. Thank you.
Sure?
Perfect. Thank you.
No, good. Thank you so much.
So cute, baby.
So that's the...
Yeah.
There's so many inyanim here, you know?
Okay.
You also have to... You probably have to go soon,
Yeah.
no?
Exactly. Yeah. Oh yeah, not there.
Yeah, 5.7 magnitude in Bakersfield. That's what it was.
I didn't grow up with it. That's that big.
In LA, it's not that big. Somewhere else, and in a third world country.
Wait,
it's
are
big.
you on Citizens as well?
No, I'm not. Hey, I can't have all those notifications, bro. You know what I mean?
Dude, it's just like...
It's crazy, bro.
No, this is crazy.
It's a very, you know, like, actually, when we go into it, because this is not even Be'iyun, this is like Pshat, what we're talking about. When you go into it Be'iyun, we go to the Parpeh Ola Chokhmah, and I'm also a little choppy because I'm not reviewing this, so like,
No.
but you know, we're doing it together.
Yeah.
So, you'll see when we go into Likutei Halachot and we do the entire halacha.
Sure, so.